What does dreaming about hell mean? If you find yourself in the middle of hell in your dream, don't get too worried. Seriously, I mean, it's horrific and it feels like crap and it seems like your world just ended in the worst way possible. Hell, after all, is the summation of all human imagination regarding the worst case scenario. The nastiest thing you can think about happening to you or your loved ones, you can convert it all, grind it down, boil it down to one word: hell. And when you have a dream about this place, it's very easy to freak out. But please understand that generally speaking, there is a specific meaning for hell, but when it comes to dreams, there are quite a number of variations. And not all of these lead to the same place. Not all of these lead to a negative conclusion. So you need to pay close attention to the contextual cues included in your hell dream. Otherwise, you're just going to be stuck in a nightmare. It's just a worst case scenario. You walk away from it thinking that this is a really bad dream and you'd rather get over it and you'd never learn the lesson. So since you don't want that to happen, you need to first start with the general concept of hell dream meanings, and then we're going to dive into the specific meaning of your night vision so you can get a more accurate read. In general terms, hell symbolizes inner turmoil. It symbolizes fear, anxiety that is manifesting in your subconscious mind. You have to remember that your subconscious picks up on all signals from the universe that you can see, hear, touch, taste, and smell. It's a recording device. All that you encounter every single day, regardless of whether you're conscious of it or not, is picked up by your subconscious. And when you sleep, your mind goes into a self-cleanup or self-maintenance mode. And part of this is putting together the strands of meaning that you have picked up, even though you are not consciously aware of it in your waking life. When your subconscious shows the image of hell, it's trying to get a point across that is rather urgent. It indicates that there's some sort of turmoil that you may be blind to, or you've been so used to denying that it may be blowing up in your face or about to, and you're completely clueless. It can also involve fear. So you may be so afraid of certain issues that you rather not deal with them, that you have become completely insensitive to them. Just because you don't sense them, just because you don't put them front and center of your consciousness, doesn't mean they don't exist. In fact, this is the worst danger, when you consciously blind yourself to things that you're afraid of, and then eventually they creep up on you. And guess what? It's on you, because you just refused to look at them in the eye and deal with them. And this, of course, breeds a sense of anxiety. It can be low-level anxiety or generalized anxiety, but it's there. And again, if you get so used to the anxiety, you're like that frog in the slowly boiling pot. You just get used to it until it kills you. So do yourself a big favor. Understand that your subconscious is showing you this horrific imagery of hell to wake you up, to draw your attention to important issues that you may be running away from, you've grown blind to, or otherwise are dealing with in a counterproductive way. So with that out of the way, here are some contextual cues you need to pay attention to so you can deepen your understanding of your hell dream. What does it mean to dream of a fiery hell? The main focus of this dream is the fire in hell. It's not the fact that you're in hell, it's the fire that you're focused on. If this is the issue, please understand that your subconscious is trying to let you know that you have encountered emotional pain that is so intense that you are actually warping your perception and memory of it. Now, please understand that what happened to you, what you witnessed or what you experienced is not your fault, but it is your responsibility to deal with that past trauma in such a way that it helps you or that enables you to function like a useful human being in the here and now. And unfortunately, it has caused some sort of turbulence that has a negative effect on your life. Maybe it's some coping mechanism, maybe it's trust issues, maybe it's how you see yourself, maybe it's how you see others, maybe it involves your very limited view of what you're capable of. Whatever the case may be, that intense emotional pain from the past is all too real in terms of its consequences today. So you have to deal with it. You have to first find it. You have to first confront it for what it is. Stop candy coating it. Stop thinking that you're strong and that you have all this pride. No, get rid of that. Instead, admit to yourself, I was hurt. Now what? Deal with it. The same goes with anger, frustration, and all of these are at the risk or at the cusp of overwhelming you. This is why your dream focuses on the fire in your nighttime vision. Hell can be many different forms. It can take many different forms, but your dream is all about the fire, the flame, the emotional intensity. So you need to not only take a long, hard look at past trauma, make peace with them, but also manage your emotions today. Are you being completely honest with your emotions? Are you dealing with them in a way that doesn't hurt people or doesn't hurt yourself and can lead to something positive? Please understand that strong emotions are part of life. That's just the way things are. But there are counterproductive and there are productive ways to deal with it. Focus on the positive. Focus on managing it. What does it mean to dream of a cold hell? This is an interesting one. When you go to hell, you'll expect at least heat. But in this case, everything is cold. Everything is frozen over. Hell, literally, at least in your dreams, has frozen over. What does it mean? It means emotional numbness. It means that you have reached a point where you are really detached from people. And this means an increasing level of emotional disconnection. You're still physically present. You still show people that you care about them, but the emotional connection is not there. People can't quite put their finger on why you seem so detached, why you seem so out of it, but at the same time, you're physically there. You're helping, you're supporting people with your words, but the emotions are not there. The reason why this is the case is that this can be a coping mechanism to past trauma. This can also indicate that you've resigned yourself. You may be thinking, I've got burned so many times before, I'm just sick of it. So I will still be there for people. I will still give them myself, but emotionally, the best way to protect myself is to just withdraw. This sense of isolation can eventually hurt you. What you're doing is you're trying to have your cake and eat it too. You want to be there for other people, you want to participate, you want to be physically present and all that. But at the same time, you don't want to get hurt, so you withdraw, you withhold, you set aside, you reserve. What do you think people will think? What do you think the consequences of this would be? Remember, for every action, there was going to be a reaction, and people will think, why? Do you think you're better than us? Or why can I love you 100% and it seems like you can only love me back 50%? Do you see how this works? So this sense of unfairness on an emotional level is very real, at least on their end. On your end, you love them, you care about them, but at the same time, you're so afraid of being hurt. So this leads to a sense of disconnection, and this can easily spiral out of control because you come off as cold, uncaring, and ultimately apathetic. So the key here is to risk being hurt by fully showing your heart. And guess what? People who deserve your love and people who will give you the kind of love that you deserve will be drawn to you, and you always run the risk of being hurt. That's part of life. We live in a broken world. So you got to get out there and give it your full. What does it mean to dream of being in hell? If the main focus of your mental camera in your dream is the fact that you are right there, smack dab in the middle of hell, your subconscious is focused on issues of being stuck. This can be stuck emotionally, stuck psychologically. And it doesn't take much imagination to figure out examples of people feeling stuck, even though they are not in prison and they have all this freedom in the world. Theoretically, they have all the choices in the world. They can change their situation overnight. At the snap of a finger, they can change their situation, but they don't. And that's what makes it so frustrating. You may feel that you are stuck in a loveless marriage. You may feel that all your friends are idiots and don't deserve you. You may feel that your job is a waste of time because idiots and morons run the show, and here you are stuck at the bottom. It can also involve your business that you got into, you jumped in with both feet, you're all passionate, and all of a sudden it turns out that it's not as hot as you thought it would be. Instead of a fast rising startup, kicking ass, taking names, making tons of money, you're grinding away with very little to show for it. You feel stuck. All of these situations lead to the same place, this emotional state of immobility. Now, it's an illusion because you know full well that you can make other decisions to get out of there, but there's something holding you there. This can be pride. This can be stubbornness. This can be fear. I'll leave you to fill in the blanks because you know yourself better than anybody else. But don't for a moment think that there is somebody holding a gun to your head and demanding that you stay in that situation. If anything, that person is you. So when you dream of being in hell and the main focus is the fact that you are stuck in hell, it's a hell that you created. Now you may be thinking, this is so depressing. This is so demotivating. No, it isn't. Because just as you can choose to be in a situation, you can choose to be outside a situation. Now, I know a lot of people will have a tough time with this because it's going to rub them the wrong way because they're looking for an easy way out. They're looking for a shortcut. In many cases, they're looking for somebody to put on a cape and save them. I'm sorry, but life doesn't work that way. You're going to have to put on that cape and save yourself. Again, reclaim your power of choice. You made this chain of choices that led you to where you are. Now you can unmake them. Pick others. Sure, it's going to be rough. You're going to get rejected. You may feel lousy because it seems like it's taking forever for things to change, but that's the way it is. That's the name of the game. That's part of the process. So please, if you want to really change, you have to start with your mindset. You have to start with accepting the responsibility for how things turned out. And the moment you do that and you stop blaming other people is the moment you reclaim power to make changes, and you will be held accountable to yourself and yourself alone. You can stop blaming your parents. You can stop blaming your birth, your country of origin, your class, your income level, all that. All those are excuses. I know it's harsh. It's tough. But that's life. Are you sick and tired of being stuck? Well, be so sick and tired that everything else looks like a positive option. Once you reach that stage, everything opens up again. Everything is possible. What does it mean to dream of others being in hell? If you see yourself as a third-party observer and you look at people screaming, having a nasty time in the middle of hell, what this represents are your own feelings of guilt and responsibility for someone else's messed up decisions. This is natural. You have to understand that when you love people, maybe your children your family members, or your good friends, at some point or other, you feel responsible for them because you understand that the signals that you send in their direction are bounced back to you, and they sometimes don't act that way if they were left to their own free will. But because of your influence, because you're in the mix, they act differently. And a lot of the times, subconsciously or even consciously, we feel that when they react a certain way, it's our responsibility. Stop it. You're feeling guilty because you're being egotistic, might possibly even narcissistic. At the end of the day, stop depriving them of responsibility for their choices. They didn't have to react the way they did, and then they ended up messing up themselves. Please understand that you have to give them space to grow up. And parents feel this sense of guilt stronger than everybody else, because you're thinking to yourself, maybe if I didn't do this, my kid would not have turned out into a drug addict. And you basically keep thinking that it's you. Well, stop robbing your kid of their agency. They're adults. They're human beings that are capable of making their own choices. So, sure, did you do certain things that would mess up people that are wrong? Yes. But at the end of the day, it's still on them because they're the ones responding. They could have responded differently. Do you see how this works? So, allowing yourself to be destroyed by guilt doesn't really help anybody. At the same time, you have to take responsibility for what you did, but only to a certain extent, because everything else is on them. So you make amends, but you are not bound to that person for eternity, because at some point it's on them. So the key here is practice empathy. Set aside your pride. Understand that you are part of the reason why this person turned out that way. Own that. Embrace that responsibility. But also at the same time, don't get into the very dangerous territory of toxic compassion, because you're dealing with an adult. You're dealing with somebody who has freedom of choice. Give them that choice. Give them that liberty. And that means holding them to account. So don't fall for this guilt trip when somebody close to you says, well, you did this to me. That's why I ended up this way. Well, that's true to a certain extent, but at the same time, a lot of that is on them. At the very least, they should realize that they're not doing well, and it's their responsibility to make other choices. You have to understand that this contextual dream analysis is quite closely related to the previous analysis of being stuck in hell. But in that context, the focus is on you and what you can do and how you can take responsibility for your choices. In this context, it's about what you've done and how it triggered reactions, but at the same time, not failing to refusing to absolve the other person of their own responsibility to themselves. Don't let anybody hold the guilt trip over you for life. They're not children. Just a quick reminder. If you are enjoying this video, please click the like button and hit subscribe. Please be sure to click the bell notification icon so you don't miss any of our updates. Thanks a lot. Now back to our dream analysis. What does it mean to dream of escaping hell? Escaping hell in a dream often represents a desire to break free from negative patterns or habits. In this context, it's a very positive dream because, let's face it, your negative thought patterns and emotional feedback loop can lead to worse and worse outcomes. When you have a negative mindset, you perceive the reality in the worst way possible and you react in a negatively emotional way, and this, of course, can have negative consequences, especially if you let your negative emotions get to you to the point that you take negative action. Pretty straightforward. This is black and white. You need to break free from that. But at the same time, escaping hell can represent faulty, useless, and worthless escapism. A lot of people like to talk big. A lot of people would say, well, I'm sick and tired of being broke. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. You know what they're doing? They're not inspiring you. In most cases, they're not even inspiring themselves. Because they know full well that they're not going to do shit. They're going to stay there. But you know what they're doing? They're releasing chemicals in their brains that trick themselves into thinking that they've actually achieved something. And this is why big talkers, for the most part, never achieve much of anything. You have to understand that the moment you talk about your plans, your brain releases chemicals that make you feel good, make you feel resolved, make you feel that you achieved something, and this can be very addictive. And instead of pushing you to take action so you can achieve the reality that you desire, you stay there just basking in the chemical cocktail coursing through your brain. And this is what people do. They daydream, they talk about themselves, talking big, bragging, empty talk, and all that unnecessary and useless bullshit. So, escaping hell in this context is talking big. You're still in hell. And the more you talk and refuse to act, the more rooted you are in that nightmare. So if you're dreaming of escaping hell, pay close attention to what you're doing. Pay close attention to what's going through your mind at that time. Are you focused on the exhilaration of escape? Chances are the latter interpretation applies to you. On the other hand, if you're focused on a clear understanding of your negative thought patterns and the focus is on just breaking them without basking in some sort of emotional positive feedback loop, then chances are your context is more positive. And this can lead to better outcomes if you act on it. So pay close attention to these differences because they lead you to totally different places. What does it mean to dream of being tormented in hell? The main focus of this dream is the torture that you experience or that you witness in other people. This is just a recapitulation or a recap of the sense of anxiety and fear that's overwhelming you. Now, you may be thinking that I'm not feeling this stuff. Well, that's because you're in denial. That's because you've learned early on to sublimate it, convert it into different forms, or simply just forget about it and refuse to see it. Just because you deny it doesn't necessarily mean it doesn't exist. It's like an 800-pound elephant in the middle of the room. If everybody in that house get it in their heads to ignore that elephant, pretty soon that elephant will be all but invisible. That's how it works. Don't never underestimate the human mind's ability to adapt and trick itself. So the key here is to understand that if you see yourself or somebody else being tormented in hell, wake up. Pay close attention to the things that you're afraid of, your no-go zones in life, things that give you anxiety, and then dig deeper and you'll find your 800-pound elephants in the middle of the room. This is the beginning of self-discovery and true healing. You probably would need professional counseling to make the most of this type of dream. But this should be your wake-up call because there's certain issues there. And if you let it fester, it might overwhelm you in the future and your problems just got worse by 1,000%. So do yourself a big favor and get professional help. It doesn't have to be a psychiatrist. It could be a psychologist, a licensed social worker, a licensed counselor. Get help. What does it mean to dream of Hell's Gates? Hell's Gates are quite interesting because they're meant to keep people in not to keep people out. Normally, gates are designed to keep people out. The good news is when you reach hell's gates in your dreams, this indicates that whatever it is you're trying to change is coming to a head. It's coming to fruition. This is a good sign. It's a positive reminder that the work that you've done inside is beginning to pay off. For many people, this is a welcome dream because, hey, it's any kind of change. Can be very frustrating because it takes so long. But you shouldn't beat yourself up because think about it. It took you this long to pick up all these negative mental habits and mindsets. And if you decide to change your mind and go in another direction, guess what? It'll take a long time as well. So don't be all that surprised. And worse yet, do not stop beating yourself up. It takes time. So when you see hell's gates in your dream, your subconscious is telling you that yes, you're making progress. And it may not be obvious to you in your waking life. Remember, if you're going to melt an ice cube and you put it on a hot pan with a stove on full power and with all that flames on the stove, it will take some time for water to form because the ice seems unmeltable. And then after what seems like forever, water starts to appear, but not much of anything is happening. But you keep focusing on it long enough, and that ice, seemingly immovable, seemingly intransmutable, turns into a puddle of water. And then soon enough, that water boils and then disappears. It's completely evaporated. The same with your personal issues. The same with your negative coping mechanisms, your negative mindset, and all that garbage. It takes time. Allow yourself that time. Remember, a watched pot never boils. So focus on improving your life holistically as you seek to make some mental and emotional house cleaning. What does it mean to dream of hell's demons? In this hell dream variation, the context involves the demons that populate hell. When you see this, your subconscious is trying to draw your attention to your fears and your doubts. Remember, the only person that can make you fail in life, that can make you feel like a pile of garbage, is yourself. Because all the insults in the world are not going to enter your heart nor infest your mind if you don't give it permission. That's the bottom line. So when you see demons, your subconscious is trying to draw your attention to your fears and your doubts and remind you that they only exist rent-free in your head because you allowed them to. Now you are forced to make a decision. Am I going to continue to hang on to these beliefs that I know hold me back, or am I going to start to deconstruct them? Or am I going to start saying no to them, that they don't apply? But here I am spending a tremendous amount of mental and emotional energy carrying them along like a toxic package. It's your choice. And a lot of the times this manifests itself in practical terms in negative self-talk. How many times have you said that you're an idiot today, subconsciously? If you're normal, chances are you've said it at least once. Maybe you stubbed your toe and said, I'm such a klutz, I'm an idiot. Or you left something at Starbucks, so you had to rush back all embarrassed and you say to yourself, what an idiot. Start with those. Because self-talk comes from somewhere. And the more you repeat it, the stronger it becomes, and it gets harder and harder. One way to deal with this is through positive affirmation. Now, here's the problem. When people adopt affirmations, they reduce it into a mantra. It's like they're praying some sort of Buddhist chant or like some Catholic prayer from the Middle Ages. That doesn't work because it's formulaic. When you do affirmations, think in terms of themes. So the wording has to change based on how you're feeling and what you're witnessing, what you're experiencing. That way, it is completely you. It is a product of the moment, and it leads to deeper, more profound, and possibly more permanent results. Thank you for watching this video. We appreciate your support. If you haven't already done so, please click the like button and hit subscribe. Please be sure to click the bell notification icon so you don't miss any of our updates. If you have any dreams you'd like us to interpret or analyze, please, by all means, leave the details in the comments. Don't leave your name or any identifiable information. Instead, just come back to our channel to see if we've come up with the interpretation video. We always make interpretation videos for all requests, so we read every comment. To support our mission of helping people from all over the world live their best lives by tapping the power of their dreams, please click the share button and share this video on all your social media accounts. Thank you for joining us on this video about hell. See you in the next video.